So in this video, I want to talk about how to be more creative in your artwork. And let me start by dividing up that you can be creative while you're painting. So in other words, you can be creative with your brushwork. You can be creative in how you apply the paint to the canvas, and you might have your own method or whatever it is, your own style. And that is one way of being creative. And I don't want to really talk too much about that way because that's something that you develop over time, and it's really a matter of taste as to whether somebody likes really loose brushwork and they can be creative in that style, or be creative in a really tight photographic way. But I want to leave that aside, and I want to talk about being creative in your choice of subject matter, lighting and composition. And that can matter massively. You can paint a skull, or you can paint a bouquet of roses, and the difference in that subject matter is massive. And the viewer, whether they like your work or they don't like your work, it's going to be primarily subject matter that makes them like it or not like it. Furthermore, the lighting is very, very important. Putting something under fluorescent lights in an office building is massively different than having dramatic lighting coming through a window and hitting that from the side with shadows in the corners and everything. So lighting is really important. And then, of course, composition, how you place your things and how you compose the painting is also important. So the creativity that you have in choosing your subject matter, lighting, and composition is going to be massively important for how creative you are in your artwork. Okay, so that brings me to my very first thought on that, and that is that a lot of times creativity should be thought of as discovery and not something that you just contrive in your head. There are artists out there, and with their imagination, they can contrive something and paint out of their imagination, and that's certainly a very valid way of creating artwork. But for the most part, and speaking for myself personally, I've always found that I could get much more, creative if I discover what I want to paint. And this is really the way that I used to paint my portraits. Instead of having a formula for how I would paint people with a light here and sit somebody there and have some formula that I would use, instead I would just arrive at their home or at their work, and I would not have any idea what I was going to do because I didn't know what the light was going to offer me. And I would have the person walk all over the home, and I would place them in different places, but always being very observant and looking for that beautiful painting. And a lot of times I would even frame it up, look through a rolled up magazine or whatever it is, so I could kind of visualize it as a painting. But I was looking for something beautiful. And that's where I found all these, in fact, all of the paintings that I ever did were things that I discovered. And that's where you get all these different styles and everything else. So, people might say, oh, you're so creative with your compositions, but really I've just discovered those compositions. But I did have the eye to see it, or to say, oh, wow, I love that, when somebody else might have missed it. So that's a real big part of the creative process, is being, is all about discovery. And, when it comes to creating AI images, on Midjourney or wherever else you're creating these images, it's the same kind of deal. You're creating these images, and you might have a prompt that says you want a meadow with a stream and mountains off in the distance and storm clouds approaching, or whatever you describe. But then when it presents you with all these different images, what I would recommend is don't settle for the first 4 images that it generates. Instead, generate 100 images, or even 200, or even more images, and then be real picky about finding that one that really knocks you out, and really, you're looking for that image that you say, whoa, I love that, and that's the one you paint. But so AI can be very helpful in actually you being creative, because remember, you're the one that comes up with the prompt, you're the one that's going to choose what you like, and even once you choose what you like, you can go further modify it, by saying, oh, I like everything about it, but I want to change this part, and you can do that also with the AI. But let's go back to just being creative in general, and there's some other things I want to say about this, and one of them is that You know, John Cleese, the Monty Python guy, has given several talks on how to be creative, and he makes a very good point, which I've, used in my own work, and that is that if you want to come up with great ideas, and this is not only just for painting, but if you're a writer or you're writing comedy sketches like they were doing with Monty Python, but he discovered that a lot of their great comedy skits and the great ideas they have were after they were finished working at the end of the day, they were all hanging out together and just having a good time and really just almost being like children. And he calls this the open way of having your mind. So your mind can either be in a closed phase or a closed mode or an open mode. And the closed mode is when you're answering your emails, you're doing your taxes, you're, fiddling with your camera, trying to set the settings up. That's closed mode. You've got to get something done. You know what the job is, and you do it. But the open mode is this mode when you're being playful, when you're just having fun with friends, like kids when they're just cutting up, or just being late at night, just giggling about stuff. That's the open mode. And when you're in that open mode, which can be described as being almost like a child, that's when all these creative ideas come in. And they never come in when you're in the closed mode. So you have to be in that mode of being open to almost the absurd or the different, or not being sort of in this track of doing things the way you've always done them. Now it's really important to understand that you only have your own taste to guide you. And in my view, that's literally all that you have. You can learn from other artists, you can be influenced by other artists, you can be influenced even by photographs or just by the world that you see around you. And all those things it's great to be, to look at what other people are doing and get ideas from those people. But ultimately, whatever you decide to paint, it's going to be what you love. And it's important that you really trust your own taste. And everybody has taste. Everybody likes certain things and dislikes other things, and everybody's different. So some people might like cluttered still lifes, some people like very simple, clean setup still lifes. And there's no right or wrong about that. That's just a matter of taste. Some people like blue, some people like orange. So it's just a different thing. And so, but ultimately it's your taste that guides you. And if you're out there following the fads and doing what everybody else is doing and trying to paint just like this artist or just like that person, or joining this group of painters and doing what they're doing, then you're really just following other people's taste or following other people's ideas instead of your own. So there's nothing wrong with being influenced by other people, but always you have to be able to trust your taste. It's the only thing you've got. I mean, in fact, the thing that differentiates us from the AI is that we have passion and the AI has no passion. The AI could care less. It doesn't care about anything, but it doesn't care if it's doing math sums or creating beautiful artwork. Whereas a person really has passion and we care about what we're doing. And so the other thing we have is we have taste. And the AI has no taste. It doesn't know. If you show it two sunsets, it really doesn't have an opinion about one or the other. It just says, well, people tend to like this one more. So it really has to go to the people to understand what is good and what is bad. So we ultimately are the ones with the taste. And you, as an individual, have your own taste. And I highly recommend that you follow your own taste. And if you're not following your own taste, you're following somebody else's. There's one more thing I want to say about the creative process, and this is just actually an article I read many years ago, and someone was studying creative people who were successful, and they noticed that there was a very typical pattern, and that is they would work for an hour and then take an hour off, work for an hour or take an hour off, but they would work in some sort of like intensive work and then a break, and then intensive work and then a break. And I noticed that that's exactly how I used to paint my portraits. I could only do it for so long, and I would just work intensely with intense focus for about an hour, and then I would just exhaust myself, and I had to set my brushes down, go walk around in the woods for an hour, or do something else that had nothing to do with painting, and then come back to it. Now, one other way to be creative is to look for things that might spark your imagination. So in other words, if you look at this little painting here and you see the man down in the bottom right, this painting started off as some paint. I had a blank canvas, and I don't remember why, but I started to paint a little something in the corner, just a few strokes of paint. And then the next day I was looking at it and I said, oh, you know, that kind of looks like a man with a big chef hat, you know, strutting down the road. And so I ended up painting a painting around it. And so in that same vein, if you're trying to create something like a landscape or whatever it is, you can just almost just make a big mistake on your canvas and then turn that into a painting. If you're interested in taking a private class from me here in Austin or online, email me at mark@drawmixpaint.com and I'll give you all the information about my private classes. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.